But just the step up he's made, it's super, super, super impressive.
It's like he got one-tapped by Shaiko on border through that barricade on that hit and thought, you know what, I've had enough of this shit, and just woke up and carried on.
Decided to end all the games in his favor.
We need to see what kind of map we're going to be playing on as well. So let's roll up the map video and see what map is selected for this best of one. We'll be heading to Clubhouse.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily surprised to see this. I think WYLDE are operating with a pretty limited map pool being such a new team. I think that's pretty much expected. Kangaroo Kenny's a shrewd operator, so to take WYLDE to Clubhouse where they lost 7-1 to Wolves makes a lot of sense. Let's not forget that ITB did show Clubhouse by beating G2 there. However, what's interesting to me really is how impactful the bans can be on this map, Fabian. Because both me and you saw it, the last time WYLDE played, they played Monty, and that was their win condition on attack. I'm wondering whether ITB will ban away the Monty because it is so impactful on Clubhouse.
I don't know if it's that impactful. The one where it would obviously be for a garage take on a CCTV defense. But where else? Dirt tunnel maybe for basement. Yeah. But at that point you can clear it other ways. And if you have to rely on a Monty, you will miss your gun somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think the map makes sense from Into the Breach because obviously WYLDE had bad results on it. But yeah, Monty I don't think plays that big of a role into it. Even with Capitao, for example, like if they just take a garage with Capitao and Grim instead, you kind of don't need the Monty anymore on garage takes, which is kind of newish.
Yeah.
But then again, it would be by far the most sensible ban just because of
how much they were lynching onto it last week.
Exactly. Just because of how clear playstyle they have.
Do you two maybe want to take the job of Des and Ace, like cast the game, work over the operator ban phase, maybe?
I mean, we probably would do a better job.
Okay, no. I'm cutting you off there.
That's not a problem.
I mean, maybe Des and Ace have heard that. We'll bring them in. Oh, you two are watching us in the meantime. Did you hear that comment? They were going to take your job. They're coming after you.
Oh, honestly, Anne, just I tell you what, Fabian, come on, you can come and cast for me. I'll go and stand on Des with Fresh. A little trip to Copenhagen sounds fantastic.
Please.
You can do some casting.
No, please. Can I have Tim?
So
what's worse though, really, me or Fabian, Jack?
Thank you, Tim.
So do you want me to get rid of the desk, or do you want Des to come on it? Which one is it that you want to leave?
I don't want anything to do with Des.
You know what? We'll just leave it.
Doesn't matter to me whether I'm there or he's here. Whichever one, I don't want to be with.
All right.
We'll leave it as it currently is, because I believe, of course, Des and Ace will bring us all the hype this game is going to deserve. Between WYLDE and Into the Breach, we'll be heading to Clubhouse.
Thank you, Anne. I feel so bad for her being stuck in that room with those two. Like, you could see as soon as she asked the question that she was like, I am full of regret right now. She did not want to carry on that conversation.
I think it's ever since they got their combined name, ever since they became Freshbean, it's getting out of hand.
I tell you what, Fresh is a total liar, by the way, because I sent him a hoodie out the other day. He's in love with the hoodie, and he's like, you got to tell me you supplied these. I want this for the Freshbean merch. So he's fully in. He's bought into these hoodies, trust me. And I'll never remember that one. I'll always be like, you know what, so you wrote it to me, Fresh. I'll remember this forevermore. Anyway, Clubhouse is coming on. Let's talk about some Siege. Forget about hoodies and Fresh's debts to me and all the rest of it. This is one of those games, Tim, that we were looking at a bit earlier on, and it's a hard one to call in a way. I think on paper, many would look at it and go, oh, ITB, they'll beat WYLDE. WYLDE are down the bottom. ITB are climbing up. If not for last week, we wouldn't have seen ITB be at the level where they are. Like the guys mentioned on the desk, 6 points from last week, and WYLDE did get that first win. So two teams you could argue that have got a little bit of momentum, a little bit of motivation to deliver here. And this could be one of those games that you just really struggle to call.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're both teams that are on the up. WYLDE, after getting that result last week, I think are, capable of getting a win here. For me, the big factor, we spoke about this before we came on, for me, the big factor here is probably Azza and Creeds today, I feel like, for ITB. If WYLDE don't contain them, if they don't put them in a box, I feel like Creeds and Azza, especially on Clubhouse, have got a real potential to just run all over them here. I'd like to see those two out in the map when they're on the defence in that second half. On the first half, get them in there quickly. I want drones at their feet. Go in, find any roamers, let them take space, let them claim it. And honestly, I think it could be a rough day for WYLDE. There's going to be a lot of big gunfights that they need to be winning. But one way or another, what I will say, Des, is what I've always said. If you get two teams, whether they're at the top of the form, the bottom of the form, it doesn't matter. If they're on a similar footing, you're going to have an entertaining, exciting game of Siege. And that's what I feel like we've got in front of us here.
Absolutely that, Tim. Absolutely that. And our bans have flown on through, so maybe Fabian could have had a talk about it while we were nattering away about other bits and bobs. But obviously we're touching on here with the Hibana going away and the two-brow pairing. Hibana, sorry, Maverick going away. I was thinking about Hibana in my head, clearly. Why not? Maverick and the two-brow going away together. It's like bread and butter, Tim. You've got to take one away if you get rid of the other, it feels, here as well. On the other side, though, the most interesting of the bans, no doubt, is going to be that Deimos. Now, we haven't seen tons of Deimos. We've seen certain teams liking to bring him out in certain spots. We've seen entries playing him. We've seen support players playing him. Very much a multi-use case style operator you can afford to bring along here. So more is trying to remove that wild card, dare I say, from the game. And the Soulless really needs no big introductions to why she's been banned away. One of the stronger defenders that we have in the game right now. Very good at negating away a lot of information. But it does leave things like the Ying available. And that's exactly what Kendrew has jumped over to here in round one. And already I'm seeing the lineup, for example, the Grim and the Ying coming in together. That just screams execute-based composition. So the goal now for Wild is going to be to disrupt this, get up in their faces, try and remove one of those two key operators just to make it sting less when the execute comes through.
We're going to be getting into the action then, as we have Teb for the time being just hiding himself out on main stairs. Going to be looking to potentially pop up and spoil the party there. You know, looking at that execute game that you've picked up on there, as I mentioned, I agree with you. The composition does lean in towards that. In fairness, ITB not one of sort of the leading plant teams. 8 in total, sort of middle of the pack really. We've got teams like Virtus Pro on 12, sort of topping the pops. BS as well with 11, lot of plants, 14 for Team Secret. So not necessarily one of the most execute heavy teams, but certainly not one of the least. So no surprise to see that being brought along, because you say the play is going to be in behind that Ying. I'm not sure how much Ying will be utilised on every site on the map. Definitely Church and Arsenal can be of heavy use. I'm thinking gym and bedroom attacks potentially as well. CCTV and cash maybe a little bit less so, but we will see how that one develops. Halfway through the round, no kills as of yet, while doing themselves well to keep themselves alive.
I really thought we'd see a bit of aggression, maybe from Kanto, maybe coming out from Lolo. Heck, just throw the whole kitchen sink at them and put Teb up on the top floor with those jammers being used to disrupt and slow things down upstairs. But it has been a turtle setup from Wild. No one playing out around the map. And the worry about that is when a team is good at attacking, Tim, you just open the floodgates there for them to get in there, all 5 alive, and really make an execute happen. The one thing I remark on is both of these teams are in our bottom 3 teams for attacking here in the competition. It's not the easiest thing in the world. However, Az is going to drop in and find one, but he might be challenged in 2 different directions here, Tim. Watching out for the mirror off towards his left, but also the player inside of Church, and it's Lolo who's holding down that key position.
Yeah, Az are doing well there, getting aggressive and just really taking a bit of key ground, getting himself into Moto. Just going to prevent a bit of that play inside of Blue. Nello taking a big risk, stepping out there, and is going to lose his life for it. Taken down 4 versus 3. Kanto manages to get the trade. 20 seconds left to go, and the gunfights start flying. Des Kanto with a second onto Noah. He has dug his feet in here and is having absolutely none of it. Lower with one of his own, and all of a sudden it's Creed all alone. 1v3. He's shown us so far in EUL that he's got the ability to do it, but down here in Church it's gonna be too tough, and there's gonna be the final kill. Wild managed to pick up round 1, and they stood up well to the pressure that ITB had managed to build.
What was really crazy was I think it looked a little bit, I don't want to say elementary because that feels bad, but it was a little bit simple as an attack, I think, overall. The Moto drop came in. We had the kitchen drop coming at the same time. The kill that we saw for the kitchen drop was Patbull getting a long-range kill with the SMG, sat very happily at the back of Arsenal. Everything else came down to Kanto and Lolo to get things over the line with a 2-piece each as well, making life all too easy for them. And I really feel for Nello. I think you'll see it on the replay in a second. That moment the target blindness is like, God, who do I shoot? And he's jumping between the 2 targets, trying to catch both. Ends up getting 1 down before those 2 kills follow through not too long after. So one of those rounds where Wild didn't really have to look in too many places. It was a couple of points they were being pushed from. Kanto had a lot of control off screen that we didn't get to see too much of, but outside of that, they looked very unbothered by that first attack, and ITB are going to have to find a little more sting in the tail if they're going to have any success, I feel.
Yeah, and I think that went well for Wild from what I was saying as well. You know, you've got to keep a hold of Azza and Creed here. They're going to be the 2 that are really going to do you a lot of damage in terms of man count. And by Wild not playing off into the map, in a way, by having that passive style, they've sort of put him in a box because, yeah, you're going to have to drop a hatch now and stand in moto, and as a manager to get a couple of kills does really well, but it means he can just be closed down at distance. They don't have to keep engaging, whereas, you know, if they play off out on their own, maybe they lose a couple there, don't get anything back for it, and you've got a bit of a different problem then when you're coming down to try and defend sites. So, yeah, really well played from Wild. A nice style. Obviously, they've looked at ITB, looked at their strengths and thought, right, how do we counter this? How do we work against this? And it went really well.
I imagine this round will see a few gunfights taking place a bit earlier than last time round. It was a good, you know, more than 2 minutes passed before we saw the entry come through in that last round, because it was a lot of setup and a lot of control given over to the side of ITB. But here, what you tend to see for this side, at the very least, is that extension out towards Cash and CC. So I think you'll find there are a couple of players here on the defensive side out that way that I'd expect ITB want to force away in some way, shape or form. It's what Oscar here is looking to do. Get the wall opened up, control inside of CC, and it stops that west window being used that covers the entirety of the south balcony for gym and bedroom. It gives less options to the attackers to make use of. And I think, like we've already seen in that previous round, ITB didn't want to overcomplicate things there. 1 or 2 angles, and that was enough for them. They're slowly trying to work their way forwards here. They are forcing players back, and Kenny has found the entry. 2 entries in 2 rounds for ITB. But my God, is it all going off here, Tim? Kenny's right in, and he's taken over the mirror window, reclaimed it for his own team to make use of, and it's all down to Pack to really try and make this recovery come through. ITB smashing the accelerator down to the ground to start this push on forwards, and Pack, like I say, has got it all to do here, Tim. Right sort of idea, but will he find a second? Mainstairs was the right idea, but Oscar gets the close.
Well prepped there from ITB towards the end of the round. As soon as they're in that 3 versus 1, you just see the activity drop off, really. The energy's all been expended that they needed to. They've got the kills. But what happened there was ITB saw some space. They saw some space and they took it. Kenny just went in. Opportunity was there. Couple of kills, and all of a sudden, you're completely in control of site, and Pat Bull's having to fight his way back in. So it was good, opportunistic play from ITB. And that, by contrast to the first round for Wild, is where they need to be careful. You can play this passive style, but if you're going to play it and you're going to let ITB play into you, look how quickly they were aggressing onto site there. They didn't feel the need to go near Cash and CCTV. They weren't using the windows. If you're going to play that style, you got to be prepared, and you got to make sure that everything is like you batten down the hatches, everything's nailed down, and there's not going to be that opportunity for them to go in and grab some space like that. Losing a couple of gunfights really cost Wild in round 2.
Did. Now can they get something going here in round 3? I think finding yourself in a spot, at least these days on club, I think 3-3 is always the glorious point that you aim for. You tend to assume the downstairs is going to be lost, but you do expect to come out on top on the 2 upstairs sides. Don't really see too much of bar on stage, admittedly. Occasionally you'll see a team get a little bit creative and bring it out and try something a little bit crazy, but often it doesn't always work out the way that they'd so hope. Either way, out and about around the map here is going to be Lolo, so at least trying to keep things, again, a bit more extended out. And this is something we didn't see down in the basement, but at least so far on these top floor sites, have seen a bit of work being done around the map. For the most part, I think you're going to see pretty standard defenses, though. You will have Teb here sat on side of Catwalk, for example, on the Azami. The Bandit ready to do a little bit of tricking work. All kinds of things here that ITB are going to have to work through. With Azra on the Zofia, though, I can't imagine that Bandit is going to be able to stay in spot for too long.
No, you wouldn't have hoped so, at least, if you're one of the hard breachers. It can be quite frustrating sometimes when you're on the hard breach and they don't get dealt with. But once again, they're offering ground, and Kenny's going in and taking it. But Kanzo says, not this time. This is the preparation that they needed. Managed to get a couple of kills. But Asa, he comes in with a big double. Des, these two are just absolutely wailing on each other in this game so far.
It's ITV's pace, man. They start opening the breach, but it's bait the whole time. They expect a bandit trick to come on through, and every single player just floods in towards site all at once. I love the change in pace because it's so hard as a defense to get a read on this kind of play. They're in a 3 versus 1, and Teba's got it all to do, and he's just sat here on Catwalk like, guys, what the hell happened? He has got no idea what's been going on because he's been ignored as part of this attack, and ITB really testing that rule if you need to be attacking from 2 places at once. They say, well, do us just fine. Top red looks like the place to be. And now Teba's got nothing to bring back off the back of this one, Tim. But ITB feel getting that second attacking round, they're already going to feel like winners after these first 3 rounds.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And again, it's ITB doing the same thing as they did in round 1, seeing a little bit of space, seeing an opportunity and getting in there and taking it. Yes, Kenny lost his life. Kanto got a couple of kills, but the noise and the distraction that it caused was everything that they needed for Azza to step in and find 2 himself, and that really opened the round up for them. And again, WYLDE, they need to adapt here. They need to recognize quickly what's going on, and they need to make sure that they're not leaving those gaps. You know, how often do you see a CCTV cache where somebody can just walk up to the top of red? You know, I'd like to go back and see, was there an FNAT on there? I didn't see Kenny get affected by one. Was there a prox alarm? Was there any barb? What was there on red to prevent that push going up red? Was there an operator at the top of red stairs? Nope. You know, yes, Kenny got taken down by Kanto, but he was able to get up and get established, and that created a bit of panic in the defenders, I think, and that's where the gaps came from, because all of a sudden, oh my God, we've got somebody at the top of red stairs. And so, yeah, I feel like WYLDE, you know, they just need to make sure that they're paying attention to those areas. The defenses so far have all been turtle pretty much, apart from Jim Bedron. Yes, they had the extension out, but there's not been any roam game. There's not been anything to mention in that sense. All the gunfights have come down to sight. So they've got to make sure it's watertight.
Well, even with that, I think it was like, we did catch the castle Iron Strip, for example, earlier on, who was out trying to make something happen. I believe it was Lolo, but maybe that was the read that ITB caught as well. Hang on a minute. There's one player on catwalk, there's the bandit on site, and someone in construction, and that is it. Guys, we should rush this. But the way they did it for me was really the special part. It wasn't just that we're going to flood in sight and go for it. It was use a distraction of the breach going off at the same time. But I've kind of half touched on it. It's the up and down pace that keeps the defensive side guessing so much. Can we afford to roam? Are they coming fast? Are they coming slow? Are they bringing a shield in this round? Is it more a guns up style bit of play from them? And Kanto chipping a knight passing in front of his eyes there. But again, it looks even here like they're trying to engineer something by the looks of it. And Azza's even found a freebie in towards Lounge. Kanto caught asleep here. Now suddenly start worrying for them. They really want to burst in here and try and catch Cello off guard before he can fall back down through this hatch. And they might even get away with it. Forced to drop, had the right idea himself with the free fire, but at least keeps himself alive. Either way, they are down a roamer tip.
Yeah, and you know, this is kind of what I said in round 1. If you remember, they played it much more sort of site-based in round 1. They had themselves locked down. ITB, yep, they took the map cleanly, but they couldn't really do too much with it. And WYLDE won a good round in round 1. This time, as you say, they've extended out a little bit. Kanto, Nello on that mid floor. They've lost a man. They've not really burnt much time. ITB are already drawn in sight. They're already getting hatches open inside the first minute 15. So ITB again stepping in and just everything they've done so far has been about that recognition of opportunity. You know, where's the space? Where can we challenge people and win fights? Where have we got the advantage? And they've just rushed to it so quickly that it's very difficult for WYLDE right now to react. And it's great play from ITB on the attack.
Pretty horrible because
this could be
ram on your turtle and ram on the turtle and nothing really happens, and you're like, okay, then maybe you've got to get on the map. You get out in the map and you just almost get your pants rushed off. It's horrible. Now let's get the right sort of idea. I think you're trying to cause a bit of bother here. The castle being relatively dispensable. Maybe one Weaver in the back pocket, still not the ideal place for it to be, but he's wasting a little bit of time. But look to him immediately. ITB are just like, oh, we don't care about you. We're back to thinking about sites again. He's forced to return back in as they suspect a rush might be coming on through. They do get a couple of kills going their way. Dev also hits the deck. It's down to a 2 versus 2 to make it a 2 versus 1. And Kenny may even yet be recovered as well. This suddenly starts looking very ropey for Lolo. Forced to drop his way back through kitchen. They'll have heard this one, but he hits Creeds. Creeds on the deck. Bunny. Kenny just 1 HP here. Where on earth did Bunny come from? You know what it is? Easter eggs, I think. I've still got an absolute stash of Easter eggs, and they're on the mind, clearly.
Bunny on the ying.
Bunny on the ying.
Brilliant.
A good round there, Tim.
Oh, great stuff. I love to see it. No, but look, you know, bunnies aside. ITB, absolutely fantastic attack once again. And as I said, it's about that recognition of opportunity. Where is the space? Where can we single players out? Where can we find those kills? This time it was Kanto. Got him taken off the board quickly, forced Nello back. I like what Nello tried. I said it at the time. Get up, Boil Pit. There was an opportunity. There was no air jab, no claymore, nothing to stop him. However, it just, again, all feeds into this, you know, this game that we're seeing from ITB where they really know what's going on everywhere. You picked up on it for CCTV ITV Cash, you know, they've recognised there's one garage, there's one down in strip, there's, you know, they're off-site, we can get in. And again, it's just that great awareness of not just what's going on site, what's going on all around the map. And again, they were just ready for Nello to come up there. The challenge was there. They knew that they didn't need to fight him because they were going to drop onto site any second. So yeah, great stuff from ITB, great stuff. Bunny included.
Bunny included. The best thing is I got a DM immediately from our observer Easy with a picture of him holding up little mini Easter eggs, and he just said Bunny on the ink.
Bunny.itv, I love it.
Bunny.itv. Hey, you never know, man. I've heard about him as an up-and-come player, you know. I've heard he's quite experienced, actually, but I've not heard of him before.
Oh, he's, you know, yeah, Bunny is absolutely packed with experience. We know this.
Oh, Christ on a bike. Let's get into this round 5 then. All right, then. Back up on this top floor, Cash and CC. We spoke about this earlier on about the Rome game that was coming out, and our teams, or so far ITB, have done a really good job of identifying when a lot of these players are away from site and being able to rush them out. I don't expect you're going to see anywhere near as many players playing off site this time, and almost like you said it, Tim, Kanto has now found himself back at top red, dropping down a couple of those F-Nats to provide that assistance if a rush does come through again.
Kanto just again, he's played this game a couple of times where he's really trying to keep on top of the drones, keep himself out of the way, and sort of off the radar. It didn't work in the last round. Lolo is just going to go for the sneaky, trying to avoid the sound cue of the barricade ripping down. We've seen again, you picked up on him in round 3. It was out in strip, didn't really have any impact from there. And if they're going to play out in the map like this, absolutely fine, but they've got to get something for it.
Kanto himself has got to be careful. He's already been caught out a couple of times in this half. Out on the Rome. I mean, really not the end of the world when you're playing on the Fenrir. Got those gadgets down, got them turned on. The F-Nats are loaded and ready in certain spots, and you can watch another with your gun. And it's more about the intel game then that his gadgets bring to the rest of his team. He's also got the bulletproof on side, so he is oozing in information right now, Tim, but not quite enough information for the other side, I guess. Azza's going to be the first one to fall. He's had a great game so far as well. I was going to say some of his end-of-round plays have been brilliant. Sat at 7-2 up until now, and then finally gets shut down. And the sting in the tail, that Capitao taken offline.
Yeah, and that's a big one for Wild, really, because in the first 4 rounds, they've lost the entry battle in 3 of those 4 rounds, and it's Azza that's picked it up twice. So to take him straight off the board, really big step for Wild, and it's going to slow ITB down because, you know, we saw him drop the moto hatch, we saw him when Kenny got dropped at the top of red stairs, we saw it was Azza who came in with the double kill, so he's the one that's been finding those kills and creating that space a lot of the time. So I think Wild definitely going to be a lot more comfortable to stay in position, and ITB definitely not as successful here, Des, when they haven't had that explosive moment.
No, and I really thought they'd try and impact the exothermic off this right-hand panel, but they've let it go the whole way through. You know, 2 of them in the back pocket of Nello. Teb still had one as well. There was more than enough available, but I think was very nervous about overexposing themselves. I mentioned Kanto earlier on. Speak of the man, and you shall come to life, Tim. 2 kills for himself down here inside a garage, and how on earth has he got away with that one? You're normally dead to rights playing down there when the attackers are coming on through, but they've left at least one of the major panels completely soft, not bother reinforcing it off, and so he's been like, okay, well, if they're not going to open it, I'm going to play my back against it, and he's found a couple of kills. Gets a little bit aggressive for the next one, but Oscar is left in a 1 versus 4 team. Only 25 seconds on the clock. Be a good round to close out there for Wild.
Yeah, I think Kanto's having a good day so far. We've seen a couple of moments where he's had those big, impactful double kills that have kept Wild in this a lot of the way. You know, the one round that they did have in round 1 was it was Kanto digging his heels in and finding a few from deep armory, and then we've seen him sort of keep him in the fight a couple of times, but this time again getting a round over the line. So Wild, they managed to find themselves 3-2, and honestly, with the way things have gone, it's easy to look at ITB, given that the wins they've had have been really quite aggressive, straight into sight, finding kills, you know, taking that space that's given to them and using it well. It's easy to look, I think, and have the feeling that ITB are running away with this, but actually I think Wild are doing a really good job to keep themselves in it. ITB right now will not be an easy team to play against. You've got Azza on 7-3, you know, going really well, supported by Oscar as well, and they're just getting aggressive, and it feels like any mistake is going to be punished, and Wild, you know, sort of fronting up to that really well, and could be looking at a 3-3 split, which on Clubhouse is not the end of the world. The attackers do usually have, you know, a lot of joy here, so Wild could well come into the second half, you know, thinking that there's 3 points available for them.
attackers are moving out to locate
I mean, the big thing I came back to earlier on was really if you're coming away from this 3-3 on the half, you're feeling pretty ecstatic as ITB. It could yet prove to be 4-2 if things carry on this way. One thing to really note, of course, is the site that we're coming into here, attacking Nongstad downstairs. We said it's a little bit difficult. They made it work out the one, so I'll give them that. No reason why they can't do so again, but WYLDE showing that confidence and playing on the downstairs will be the ones looking to course correct from last time around. Bunny is back onto the Ying once again, unsurprisingly, given the success that we saw from it last time around, if nothing else, for a few laughs to come out. And we've got that Capitao here once again. Really becoming quite a stalwart pick here on Clubhouse for many teams, I'd argue.
Bless Kendrew.
He is now called Buddy for the rest of this game, and I'm dead serious about it.
Oh, dearie me, I can't wait to speak to him after the game.
He would have a clue. He's busy playing the game, Tim.
Kanto is challenged onto Adam Window a couple of times. He's just been a little bit unfortunate with his timings, not able to pick anybody up. ITB were definitely ready for the fight that time around, but he will just keep himself in that position, try and cause a nuisance. Yes, Des.
I've got one for you. A great skin, an elite Easter Bunny Ying. The Candelas are Easter eggs. Honestly, Ubi, I'll take my commission, 15%.
And it could be called, the name of the elite could be called Bunny on the Ying.
It'd be perfect as a fun in Lolo. I tell you what, every single time it's come around to sniffing out Kanto or Lolo, he's had numbers a few times throughout this game, really going well on the IQ, giving it a lot of the kills as well, coming from outside the map. Just shows maybe that WYLDE are overexposing themselves at point. Nello getting one back, and the man of the moment that the devs simply could not talking about. Creed's taken offline.
Yep, Teb is desperately looking for Azza, and he's going to find him. Azza gives himself away there. The shots have come through the barricade. He knows there's somebody in billiards. I mean, maybe best case scenario, you think that they were taking shots from showers, from bathroom maybe, but really dropping back down there. Ooh, you were asking for trouble, and Azza got it. Teb managing to find the kill. 4 versus 3 now, as WYLDE again are doing a good job to holding on to this one. ITB not finding that same space, and this is what I was saying earlier. If WYLDE can make it watertight, if they can avoid giving them those opportunities, those little cracks to work their way in through, then they might have a bit more joy, and they certainly are doing now.
Right, and they drop as well. Bunny down main, looking for his danger. Where are they? Trying to look for one-to-one mirror. No one's actually here. He's just like, where are you guys? I can't find anyone. He's still got the diffuser in back pocket, though, and can make good use of that. It's down to a 2 versus 2. Finally gets his man. Found him ratting out inside a moto. And now Teb has returned back down towards site from that exact same place. But do they know this is where the droppers come on through? The Candelas would suggest as much. Spray coming in towards the soft wall, finding absolutely no one. Even he's got no clue what's going on, Tim. Everyone's blind is the only way that I can look at it. We'll find the Candela. Still temporarily flashed out. Another flash comes on through. No, still got one more for good measure, if so required, and they've got the mirror window to play behind here, Tim. It's a real hard ask for Teb here, but the fact that we've got yet another round where they're having to fight their way back in towards site just shows that pace at which ITB have been playing, and the 2v1 feels a little bit out of it. Buddy with the close, a 4-2 half. That's a dream for ITB.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody manage to do as much time and steps. Kendrew nearly had his 10,000 steps for the day inside a site there. He was just like wandering round. No, there's nobody here. I can't find anybody. But ITB, as you say, again, just managing to get in there and just, you know, enough pressure until there is that opportunity from WYLDE. There is that little bit of a crack that lets them just get their way on in. But again, WYLDE, it was a round that you felt like it was in their hands at a point, especially after this. They get the 4v3, they've got Azza taken out, and you just feel like, yes, they can hold on to this, but then ITB just breaking them down so well.
I don't know if at that point Kenny was doubting his own sanity or the comms of his teammates, to be honest. It's like, guys, you said there's someone in nobody here. Empty. He's managed to round himself in towards Moto and hide away in there, but hey, he holds true, keeps the faith, finds his man. 4-2 is the dream scoreline for ITB, as mentioned. Sure, you can say a 5-1 or a 6-0 if you really want, but I'd say with how things stand, WYLDE have had a couple of rounds they definitely deserve in that first half. They're really going to have to buck up their ideas here, though, going into this side of things, Tim. And they've got a pretty steep hill to go climbing here, and ITB are the ones on the defense.
All the way down to Church Cade brought along. Going to try and protect those hatches a little bit without the Maverick on side. Just having a quick look through. There is nothing. There's just the Thatcher. So they need to make sure that Nello is staying in the fight here. Just otherwise, those hatches are going to be staying close. Then it's going to make a very difficult round for them. I like this from Wild. 30 seconds in. Lolo already in master bedroom. It looks like he's maybe got... I don't know if he's got a bit of intel ahead of him suggesting that there's somebody playing there, or whether there's a drone racing and he's just sort of waiting for the drone to catch up and feed the information into him. But he's not going to find anybody in logistics. Noah is on catwalk. Lolo turns and heads in that direction, so I think he is aware of this now. And Wild really need to find the kill onto that bandit.
I love the support they've got. The player hanging around blue, for example, to make sure Lounge stays safe and the players can, or the two that are roaming at least, can dig their way back in. You have just seen this ping come through. No, the bandit's there! Was trying to make use of what looked like a punch hole, Tim, to get something done, but Nello, with that assistance coming in, manages to get the close out. Good bit of team play from Wild, good roaming initially from ITB, but they have lost someone out in that process.
That's it. If Nello doesn't get that kill, I think Lolo definitely does through the soft wall. And as I said, they needed to clear that bandit out because that was the one thing that was really the sort of one hindrance that they had to getting themselves full map control and making sure that they were ready to start that step 2 of preparing site for an execute, which is what they're now going to do. They'll burn through these X-Kairos 2 by 2 more than likely, but Oscar will trick them out for the time being. They need to get that Thatcher over there, and they're going to need to use those EMPs to get the kitchen hatch open, and with 1 minute 10 left to go, time could start becoming a factor.
And again, immediately, I'm looking at the playstyle coming out from ITB. I know that we've moved past that part of the round, but having 3 roamers out in the map early on, and Wild were the ones immediately dug in and really trying to play Turtle in round 1, just shows a little bit of a statement of intent, dare I say. And yes, they've lost one so far. They've still got the C4 and Oscar in back pocket. They're still dug in relatively well here. And now all the effort has to turn onto the other side. It's on Wild to orchestrate this attack. They've got one more to KB call left in back pocket. The Patwell is saving for this execute, as well as the Grim, also with those Bs in pocket. So they've got things to work with here, Tim, but they've got about 30 seconds in which to do it.
Big problem that they've got is that they haven't managed to open kitchen hatch. Fantastic KE play from Oscar there, just keeping it closed despite the EMPs coming in. Took out a ton of X-Kairos pellets along the way as well. So now Wild are having to adapt, they're having to flex, they're having to go elsewhere. It looks like a lot of the pressure is going to be coming from blue and main stairs. That's where they're lining up at the minute, and here comes the push, but that's not ideal. Teb finds one, but then closes down Nello. 5 seconds left to go. They need to think about a plan. Teb is getting it down, but as are Oscar, they clean up and close out the round. 5-2 ITB.
They just look so unbothered for so much of that round, even down in a 4 versus 5 when the execute starts coming through. As you say, Tim, we saw, I believe it was, that wasn't Teb, it was someone at the bottom of the book of the main stairs. Everyone else trying to foot their way through blue, but they look so hesitant. Even when it was flooded out by the Bees to be guaranteed that it was closed, the double soft walls, the shield they knew that was in Arsenal, there were just so many things staring them down. Like, we even had the defenders dug inside of dirt to make use of that angle as well. Just very largely unbothered. The team kill, you'll look at and just think, well, it sounds bad. Normally not to blame the player that's got the team killed. It's their fault. I actually think Nello there knows full well that Teb is going to be swinging around that corner looking for a challenge in towards Arsenal. And like, why would you run in front of him here when you know that he's stepping in for a bit of a gunfight? I think more that he was looking for his own, and there was a little bit of a mistake there on who was swinging what way. Maybe Nello expected Teb to keep on moving out towards the left, for example, and Nello just stepped in front of him. One of those moments where you look at and just think, oh dear, it's all falling to pieces over itself. ITB with a really good convincing first defense though. As said, Wild have really got to buck their ideas up, Tim. This is already starting looking like too tall a mountain to climb.
5 seconds left.
That sort of team kill happens, Des, when you don't get kitchen hatch open and when you've got to rotate and drop blue hatch with 20 seconds left to go, and it's all an adaptation, it's all plan B, plan C, because, you know, what you clearly wanted to do hasn't worked and you've just had to rotate. And like you said yourself, there was a bit of hesitation there, and I think, you know, that's what you then start to see. Somebody think, you know, everybody kind of all thinks at once, right, somebody's just got to go in here and try and do something, and unfortunately everybody goes at once, and probably the comms are a little bit chaotic and there's a lot going on, and Wild suffering for it. So they need to make sure, you know, that the fundamentals are getting done for them, not getting that hatch open. They had the Thatcher on board. I know that it's not, you know, a given, but against the Kaid with that extra lead time, it should be a little bit more possible. The X-Kairos pellets do take longer to detonate, so it's still a bit risky, but it was a big moment in the round, really, not getting that hatch open, and they need to make sure that they're not having those struggles for the future attacks.
Rapid work being done here as well to get themselves going. At least opening things up. Walls opened up. F-Snat's destroyed. Really good progress, at least to start things off on the side of Wild. But now they're at this sort of pause point where they've ignored all control over towards Cash and CC side. And I believe we saw someone sat over towards CC, ready to poke the head around that window if they're not too careful. They're just going straight in though, Tim. They've identified that the site is largely empty, and Patbull has got himself inside a bathroom here. Has obviously got to work his way inside of site, but they've got some of the control they need. Patbull taking out the entry. Where is everyone? The lights are on, but no one's home.
I like this from Wild. This is almost sort of playing ITB at their own game. If you're going to give us the opportunity, we're going to take it. Plant was going down, but they've just had to dip off that for the time being. I think recognising that they don't quite have as much control as they need. They've tried to use the bees to prevent anything coming forward. Big nitro, but not from Azza. It's from Creeds. He finds himself a double, and that puts the diffuser down cold inside a site. So what looked like Wild taking ground and an opportunity was actually ITB saying, come on in, come on in. We're going to welcome you with a nitro.
That sort of idea. Lolo here as well, holding on to Lodges, managed to do a good bit of work, but Kanto has stepped up and found himself one as well. This could be on for it, Tim. It's him versus Azza, and Azza, as we've said, has had such a brilliant game. Admittedly, back in that first half was where he shone the brightest to begin with. Will it continue into the second? You're finding out now with the swing on around, and yes, he will! Finds Kanto, puts him in the dirt, and ITB move up to match point.
Azza was just going to continue doing that dance there as long as he needed to. Just go and have a little look. As soon as he hears that beeping stop, as it was, he was ADS'd, he was ready for the fight. If he hears it a step or two sooner, he just drops his way back and he just keeps fighting those 5 seconds at a time to burn down the clock. Kanto really had it all to do there. You know, as we always say, if you're in that 1vx, you've got to put that diffuser down. It takes your gun off the board and it is a big risk. So Kanto with little else to do really other than try and bait the fight out, but just couldn't win it. And ITB, yeah, again, I look at it, I'd like to look at that round back a little bit closer, because like you said, it was a lot of space there, you know, for Wild, and you've got to wonder, I'm sure, you know, on a different play day, there's an opportunity where that diffuser does go down and all of a sudden you've got a bit of a different situation, but Creed's in the nick of time, gets that double nitro, and that really opened the round up for ITB. So, you know, they'd welcome them on in, but they had a surprise in store.
It was definitely a high-risk tactic is what I'll call it when you're relying solely on those C4s to get the job done, especially once, I think, you know, to give some credit to Wild, they read the situation. They got in, Plant was going down. They were like, oh, I've heard a C4 rip through the hatch. There's someone downstairs. Bees go downstairs. Immediately, they're looking for vault cams because they know that's where the information is coming from. And you even saw it on screen itself when we had Lolo tossing that C, not Lolo, sorry, when we had them tossing the C4 skyward from below. There was no information. There was no yellow pings. It was very much a, right, where can we put these C4s that are very likely to get a kill? And there are 2 places that jump to mind. One is going to be against that single reinforced wall that separates the 2 sites. The second one is on the doorway leading towards the west breach, where someone will be tucked in and only really exposed to construction door. Those are the 2 best places to put it. That's where they put the C4s. They get a double off the back of it, which is the craziest part, and they get the close. Imagine if they hadn't got that double, though. They'd got just a planter instead. Suddenly, it's 3 players left up, coming up against 4 players, all flooding their way back up through main stairs, and that turns into more of a meat grinder for the side of the attackers. But great 1v1 being won out. Nice ideas from both teams. ITB still are the ones finding themselves in full control here. And come on, boys, this should have been sorted seconds ago. Creeds with the entry onto Patbull. It's a nice one to start with. It's also the hard breach gone, Tim.
Creed's unflappable there, really, despite the bullets flying around his head. He stayed for the fight. Nello has not been able to. That is really unfortunate timing for Wild, as Nello will drop, but the round will be completed. 4 versus 3. Creeds has been taken down. Kanto was there, managing to get that trade. Again, a little bit of just tough timing there. If Kanto's a second or 2 ahead, then maybe Creeds doesn't find his entry, but still definitely winnable for Wild here. They've got the CC window that they can start working from, apply a little pressure, make it difficult to play from garage. Teb's working into construction, so they've got a couple of angles to work from.
The real painful thing is there, you've lost the entry as your Thermite, and then the player that's disconnected is your Ace. That really renders Lolo, for the most part here, completely ineffective. Like, what's he going to disable? Like bandit batteries for a wall that you can't open? Congratulations. There's no bulletproofs to worry about, for example. Valkyrie cameras? Like, don't make me laugh. So really, there's not a whole lot that this team really brings on what they've got left on side. Kanto's got a single flash he can work with and a little bit of vertical play, but that really is all they can bring to the party, unfortunately. ITB up into a 4-2 and looking to close the game 7-2.
Yeah, it's really tough, as you say, for Wild there. You know, I'm sure they would have wanted to be fighting for a few more rounds, try and keep themselves in it, but it's just not worked out that way for them. Azza and Noah will pick up those final kills. ITB, I think, you know, regardless of how things end there, Des, ITB still good for the win for me. You know, they were very confident in their play. They took a lot of ground when it was offered to them, seized on opportunities that were there, and I've been impressed with ITB overall today.
Yeah, me too. I think a lot of the way they've approached it is great. Like on the attacking side, we heaped absolutely tons of praise on them for the way that they approached that game. Whether it was going slow, then going fast, the rushes, the reading in towards players being off site. Just a really good understanding of the game state, I think. Really good at getting those entries from outside the building. Wild, unfortunately, it's back to the drawing board, even despite that win they had last week.
Yeah, it was a tough one for them. I think I don't actually dislike the way they played. I think they did the right sorts of things generally. They just came up against an ITB who were on it to do. Just any small sniff of an opportunity, they were in there. And I think, you know, Wild are a little bit unfortunate in some ways for that.
Some work to do, no doubt, and as I'm sure there's plenty of stuff to do on the desk here to talk about this game. So let's throw over to Anne and the guys now.
Thanks so much, Des and Ace. And 3 points for Into the Breach. We've seen them be on a pretty decent streak so far. And as you said in the green room, Fabian, this game played out exactly like you expected.
Yeah, there was no surprises whatsoever. I was pretty clear that Into the Breach would run over Wild. It made sense, the map for them.
Yeah.
And just that they even won against G2. And if you have that fragging power and you can win against that fragging power, you definitely can pick apart a team that is way weaker than Wild is.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me, realistically, is I set the expectation maybe Monty would be a factor.
Yeah.
Not at all. Didn't
Not at
see him
all.
once. Sometimes that just happens, right? And I think you did, you know, set that right with the map being a big factor in that. I think ITB are a team that has been progressing, and this was another challenge for them is we've seen Wild show a bit of substance now, which made Wild a little bit more dangerous than previously thought. And I think ITB just had to come in, put in a professional performance, make very few mistakes, and that's exactly what ITB did.
Yeah, and they were also kind of smart. They did a lot of plays that wouldn't kind of normally make sense, but they had looked through their opponents last time they played, and they used that as counter work, and it worked. I mean, just look at the CCT ruck when the 3 guys go up red step.
Yeah.
That's just not something you see every day, unless you know exactly that's what's going to happen.
It was really good, well thought out reactions. Like obviously that play was pre-planned, but a lot of the other plays were well thought out reactions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Based on their assumptions of where Wild would be, particularly when ITB were attacking. And I think that's one of the things is that when you're against an opponent that has a limited map pool, that is new, that has limited strategy and limited depth, you're able to make those assumptions and then get these plays off quicker and be more ready for them.
Which is good to see. I mean, of course, we saw Into the Breach also get that 4-2 attacking split on a map like Clubhouse. That's impressive.
It's very impressive, but then when you look at the opponent you went up against, I don't know if it's more of what it should have been. It's just kind of the standard. It's sometimes actually harder to play against these teams that are slightly weaker because they would have to figure something else out than just the conventional gameplay to try to beat you. So it can actually be harder to play teams like Wild just because they have to do something different and you're not prepared for it. And it's just a weird thing to do, maybe.
It might be weird, but then also when we saw Wild on their own attacks, they were pretty slow. They were really taking their time and not everything was going right for them.
Yeah, I think it went a little bit wrong. I think that round obviously into Gym where they got baited with the C4s below. I think, again, it's a team with... They maybe surprised us last week, but it's a team where we feel that we've got a good understanding where they're at with their strategical depth, with their map pool and where they're at. And unfortunately, they're a little bit behind pretty much the rest of the league.
Yeah, and it's as you said with that bait. If you leave a team open space, they drone it and they try to take it, and then all it is just a bait into C4s.
Yeah.
That to me shows that, well, you know when things are clear and you know how to take them, but you don't know what it actually means that you're taking it. If there's nobody there, he's probably not there for a reason. This game is mathematical. You have the logical positions to be in. If you can count them away and you say, hey, there's not a guy here, there's not a guy here. Well, if they're not dead, where are they? Well, they were underneath waiting for them.
Yeah.
To get into some more maths and some more numbers, we said that Into the Breach can qualify today for the top 6. They can confirm that. They got step 1 right. They got the 3 points here. But what else did they need to do?
Yeah, that's basically, they did exactly what they needed to. They are more or less, it would be a miracle if ITB are not in the playoffs now. But for it to be mathematical, What they are looking for is for Virtus Pro and Fnatic to both lose today. Obviously, Fnatic going up against Secret, Virtus Pro going up against BDS. So it's very likely, because if those two teams lose, and obviously Wild have lost, none of those three teams can overtake ITB, and therefore the minimum position they could finish is 6th, which of course would get them into the playoffs.
Me neither.
Is audio gone for you both?
Yeah, we cannot hear anything. Oh, that's great. That's great for us. Well, we have an interview with Noah, and hopefully we can get him up on the screen so that everything is all right. Hi, Noah. How are you doing? How was that game? How do you feel after it?
It was a fun game. It's always interesting going up against like teams that are a bit lower in the bracket, because just as you said, you never know what they're going to pull out. But we went into it like we do every other game. We had our prep, and we just played as a team. It's always a fun game.
Yeah, and Clubhouse, obviously, you guys played it in your last play day. You won against G2 on it. Was it a prepared map for it? I'm assuming it was, but a little bit more limited map pool and a lot of counter work that we saw from you.
Sorry, say that one more time, last time?
Was the map a preparation? Because we know that Wild has a bit more limited map pool, and you guys counter them quite a lot in your attacks. Was it the map you guys wanted?
Well, we were fine with like two very different maps. We were actually thinking that they were going to ban out Clubhouse from our last play day against G2. But since they wanted to, it looked like they wanted to take us there, so we just went for it again.
We have no audio on hand, so I'll keep asking questions. So Noah, last stage, I was very questioning about you as an individual. I don't know if you've seen that desk segment, but I said, you are playing for your career now. And I think, and this is me praising you, I think you've taken that step up. You've cemented yourself as a player that now belongs here. How does it feel to start so poorly in your career as a, well, tier 1 player, and now turning it around and showing everybody you do belong here?
Well, obviously I saw that desk from you as well. I think my start of the career was like a lot more than just myself as an individual. It was about the entirety of like that team that I was in. But after that phase, I was obviously really disappointed with myself, but learning a lot more, just being like really willing to learn from the teammates that I had and the coaches around me, making sure that like I was fitting into the team wherever I could, and just taking as much in as I can. Obviously, you lit a fire under me as well after that desk, where I was like, okay, well, this is the point where I got to turn around, and thankfully it worked out.
Perfect, and I'm so happy for you. You know, Swedish people, there are not many of us, but the few that we have left, we need to keep. Do you have anything to say to your fans before we head off?
Just thank you guys for supporting us. I hope you guys have seen how much we're really putting in this stage, and I hope you keep supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Noah.
Thank you.
And that's it. Obviously, he's very happy, and they should be. They played really well. This stage has gone amazing for them. But now that I'm the host, and I have to throw it to the next one, well, we're heading into a break, but don't go anywhere because we have a game coming up right shortly.